Hello, everyone. Deborah Roth back here with another addition to my long-term, 4 years running now, Inner Goddess Team series. And it's this week, it's another fertility / harvest goddess. And we did one last one, an Etruscan goddess last time, Cel, C-E-L. And I love these that are so body earthy related. It's the perfect time of year, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we are celebrating the harvest. We're just a week past, not even just about exactly a week past from the fall equinox, which is a time of balance, which is a time of honoring what we've harvested. So I'm kind of continuing that theme. And as always, why I'm doing this, you can see when the YouTube video, when this is uploaded to YouTube, which usually happens on Thursday sometime during the day, usually the evening, there's a little eye in the corner of the video that you can go to, that you can click on and hear more about why I'm so passionate about bringing these archetypes, these divinely feminine archetypes, rising them up in the world. So many of them I've heard of, but so many of them I haven't. And they all represent really beautiful, powerful, feminine qualities, divinely feminine, positive feminine qualities, honoring our emotions, honoring our intuition, collaboration, cooperation, honoring our connection to our bodies, such a big one, and to the earth, in the cycles of the earth. So take a look at that if you're curious about the origin, why I've been doing this and so passionate about really rising up the divine feminine, as I've been doing since I kind of discovered her in the mid-90s, doing women's circles really since then for the last 28 years, which I now do online. I might as well just throw that in there. Next one coming up is Wednesday, October 2nd. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have to tune in and find out when next month's is. Must be November 2nd or 3rd, maybe. So at any rate, today's goddess is Onatah. Seems to be the one pronunciation that I found. So often they don't give pronunciations. And she is one of the Iroquois, and probably the primary Iroquois corn goddess. And she had two sisters whose names I didn't see, but they were the goddesses of squash and beans, which were also staples. Corn, squash, and beans were big staples in the Iroquois nation's diet, and quite possibly still are, but certainly in the times when they were living off the land. And the Iroquois, of course, they were their the way that they ran there, the Iroquois Confederacy, I think it was called, was the model for our Constitution. And while we did not treat Native American nations in this country, it goes without saying, we didn't treat them well, but gained so much information and so much wisdom from them. So I never want to co-opt. I only want to honor when we're bringing up some of these either other cultural gods and goddesses, but also those that originated in our own country here in the U.S. So she has a wonderful myth, not terribly empowering, I have to say, and it may sound a little familiar to you. I won't say familiar how, but her big myth is that she originally, and I will give in the YouTube description, I give more detail. But I will give you the link to this beautiful storytelling of her primary myth, and her name means Earth's daughter, or of the earth. So very earthy goddess here, and this is how the myth in this beautiful storytelling page begins. There was a time, says the Iroquois grandmother, when it was not needful to plant the corn seed, nor to hoe the fields, for corn sprang up of itself and filled the broad meadows. The stalks grew strong and tall, and they were covered with leaves like waving banners, and filled with ears of pearly grain wrapped in silken green hues. Now, in those days, Onatah walked the earth and the sun shone down on her, and she danced through the meadows. Her sisters, the goddesses of and I didn't find their names, but the goddesses of squash and bean would walk with her, and as they passed by, squash vines and bean plants would grow across the corn hills. Maize, remember, is the Native American name for corn, and wherever she walked, it would pop up. Now, there was a time where she wandered off alone in search of the morning dew, because it was, the sun was out and bright and loved her, helped her to grow. And when she wandered off by herself, she was snatched by spirits of the underworld, by one in particular whose name I am not even going to attempt. But if you go to that storytelling page, you'll see this very long name, and it was brought to the underworld, and because these spirits coveted her, and then she has to be rescued by the sun, who searches and searches for her all winter long, and finally, because she has to be returned at just the right moment, and so it takes the sun months and months to find her, because he sleeps a lot in the winter. Don't you love how that fits in with reality? And has to conserve and build up its strength so that at the point when the sun does find her, it can split the ground open with just the right amount of force and at just the right time for her to bloom again. There's apparently no margin for error with this. And offerings were made, and ceremonies were held in the Iroquois lands to enable the sun to find her again. She keeps getting, the disempowered part is that she keeps getting kidnapped. She keeps getting spirited away each year, and the sun has to retrieve her. She doesn't return on her own, which, and here's the analogy, many of you have probably heard of the Persephone and Demeter story, where Persephone, daughter of the earth goddess Demeter, is taken to the underworld. In the patriarchal version of the myth, she goes willingly in the feminist version of the myth, because she needs to declare her own sovereignty and her own self-sufficiency from her mother. Doesn't seem to be, not that I could find, an angle of anything other than the fact that that Onatah is the powerless one here. So the idea, though, is that when the sun is asleep, as the sun starts to rise again, vast human effort in ceremonies and offerings were needed to wake up the sun in order for the sun to retrieve, to get back Onatah. So that's the story of this very beloved maize or corn goddess from the Iroquois. There is a beautiful, and I actually had this CD from years ago, there's a beautiful chant to the corn goddess from Lisa Teal, who's just has a beautiful voice, does many different goddess chants. I will probably not get this this tune right, so I will include the link to this chant and to this particular CD in the YouTube description. And it goes something like this. Sacred corn mother, come to me. Make my way sacred, fill me with beauty. Sacred corn mother, sacred corn mother, come to me. Make my way sacred, fill me with beauty. Fill me with beauty, fill me with beauty. Fill me with beauty that I may bring others to beauty. Those are the words. That is not the tune, but it is one that evokes this feminine archetype of fertility, of harvest, of honoring corn. So a wonderful way to really bring this energy into your life, a very practical way, would be to call on her, to call on this Iroquois corn goddess when you're preparing your garden for the spring, which may mean planting bulbs like tulips and daffodils that you have to plant now in the fall in order for them to come through in the spring, in the early spring. The other way to honor her, of course, and I just did this a week or so ago with my mom, was to get, because we both love corn, was to get some late season corn and to really make that a sacred act as you're eating it. Cook it, husk it, cook it, eat it. And as you're doing it, very intentionally, give thanks for the things in your life and your relationships and your work that have blossomed over the last, that you've harvested over the last 6 months, maybe since the spring equinox, since we're just on the heels of the fall equinox. So that's the story of Iroquois maize or corn goddess Onatah. And I just invite you to play with her and see how those themes, those messages of harvest and Thanksgiving come up for you. And let me know. Thanks so much. See you next time.